Now, turning back to football, Garvey Super Value Senior County Football Championship. And of course, we're going to review the game here with our regular panellists, John Kennedy and Liam Brosnan. Guys, a lot of people promised that this was going to be a really exciting final, and, you know, there could have been a shock, and people said, you know, East Kerry were vulnerable. Liam, furthest thing from the truth, really, wasn't it? It was a bit of a damn squib.
It was done, and I suppose, look, last week we were talking here, and we were more hopeful than anything else, because look, we were looking at this East Kerry team, and they remind me so much of the East Kerry team in the late 90s as well. And we came across them in the 98 final ourselves, St. Kieran's. They were just star-studded all over the field, and you know, they were 4 or 5 inter-county footballers, but yet they had other fellas in the flanks that were just as good. And this East Kerry team proved it yesterday, and probably proved it all through the championship, even though they weren't firing. No, they were just solid out, and they were getting over games. No, we were saying they were put to the pin of their collar, but realistically, were they? No, good footballers always come to the top, and that's what East Kerry had yesterday. Were very good footballers. Like in 5 games, they kicked. Was it 569? You know, that's so. We were trying to sell it here that they were a team that were there for the taking, but Mid Kerry, I suppose, never came out of the gates really yesterday. No, I know, was it the occasion or no? But I suppose, look, you needed a structure, and I think Spa and Kilmare and Dingle proved it. The club teams were probably better equipped to put up a bit of a defensive structure against them, whereas Mid Kerry, you can't really do it in the space of 2 weeks. No, you can't. You can chance it, but it's not going to work. And I think a lot of the stuff, and myself and John have been on the sidelines, you know, sometimes you can overthink games and stuff like that, and I think it went that way a small bit yesterday for Mid Kerry. You know, the kick-outs, they struggled in the first 10 minutes big time. They had a plan with Rory Murphy down the middle. It didn't work, you know, and it just look, East Kerry looked comfortable all the way through yesterday.
Mm-hmm. John, I suppose, look, we've all been sidelines, and we all win games and lose games. I mean, what's going on with Mid Kerry this evening? I mean, East Kerry are celebrating over in Rathmore. It's a huge time for their friends and family, but it's a lonely old spot when you lose as well, John.
It is, Donald, and we said last week, you know, it's about performing in the final. If you perform and you're beaten, well, there's no excuse. But first of all, we give credit to East Kerry. You know, we've been saying they haven't been firing on all cylinders throughout the campaign. Yesterday was their best performance, and led by David Clifford. But Mid Kerry, they contributed to it really. They didn't perform. You know, some of the players that we're looking to, their marquee players, they didn't perform on the day, and you know, they struggled really. They, like any management team, they made changes, positional and personnel. They didn't really work, being honest, and it's disappointing. Great achievement to get to the final, not performing and being beaten. It's a disappointing day. But look, they've progress made, and Peter O'Sullivan, his management team, great work done all the year. Look, got to the final on merit, just didn't perform on the day. It happens a lot of teams, and you learn more from a defeat sometimes than you do from victory. But this will be a tough one for Mid Kerry. The fact that, you know, the game was over long before the final whistle really. It was a foregone conclusion. It was only a matter of how much they'd be beaten by rather than would they be beaten.
Mm-hmm. It ended very tamely, of course, Liam. But go back and let's break the game down. I mean, it didn't start tame enough. I mean, Nathan Breen certainly clattered into David Clifford to let him know that he was around the place very early on. They got their 3 points. Did they go 4-1 at Clare, and then Mid Kerry had a bit of a counter, and they got back to kind of 4-2, 4-3. At that stage, I thought Mid Kerry were well in the game. What happened then?
Yeah, and East Kerry had probably the advantage of whatever way the wind was, even though it was a funny enough wind. It was kind of blowing across the field. But yeah, it looked like, you know, they were coming out all guns blazing. Like I said, David probably got two nice clatters to let him know he was in the game. But at the same time, as they say, you should never poke a bear. And I think when you poke a bear, you see what the answer you get yesterday. But yeah, look, up front, and I said it last week, Donald, they needed the likes of Liam Carey, and I said maybe 1-4, 1-5, 1-6. You need a marquee forward. Mid Kerry didn't have that yesterday. Like Kieran Dennehy stood up to the plate now yesterday, you know, a very young light footballer. Every time he got the ball, you know, he went at him. He was a danger, so much so that, you know, even David Clifford had to come to the sideline at one stage, you know, to tell the management put such a fella on him, you know, that kind of way. He was causing trouble. But I suppose you got to give credit to the East Kerry defenders as well. Now you're looking at their defenders there; they're all inter-county defenders. So any forward would struggle against the likes of Chris O'Donoghue, Pa Warren, Dan O'Brien, and these guys. So they were really going to be up against it.
And are those players the players that you mentioned now? They're the ones that we hardly ever mention. I mean, they're the next level below, we'll say, the superstar grade, but they're the ones that keep it all knitted together tightly.
They are the one, but they're the next level coming into the Kerry senior squad. Like Pa Warren has been in there in the extended panel last year. I'm sure Chris O'Donoghue and Dan O'Brien are going to be brought in. You already have Paul Murphy in there. Jack Sherwood has been there and done that, and Jonathan Lyon. So you really want to, if you were an opposition forward yesterday, you would really want to be the top of your game going in to be marking any of those six defenders. And unfortunately, Mid Kerry didn't get it from the likes of Liam Carey. Faker Clifford tried hard, Keith Evans tried hard, but they're not scorers. Like, if you look at the teams that caused East Kerry trouble, Paul Gainey, Shawnee Shea, these are the guys you need a guy that will score the 1-4, 1-5. Mid Kerry yesterday needed to hit around 112, 113, maybe 212 to be in that game, and I knew coming up to half time they weren't there, and it was going to be kind of, and it looked from their body language that even from it was try to nullify East Kerry more than go at them, but look, like I said, we've been on sidelines. Sometimes you can overthink games. But when you were sitting down last week and you were looking at these Kerry team, you're looking at Paddy Clifford, David Clifford, you are scratching your head to say, who will I mark him, what will I do, what's the best way to do it? And unfortunately, I don't think Mid Kerry had enough for East Kerry yesterday.
Peter Sullivan, of course, said on the build-up to, he said, we're facing a team that have a number of all-stars. He also, as it turned out, had 2 players of the year, playing in the full forward line. So it was a big ask, but one of the strengths of Mid Kerry all the way through, John, was their midfield. That they were able to secure possession and they were able to give their forwards ball. That didn't happen yesterday.
No, it didn't. And I suppose the player that had caught the eye up to yesterday was Dan Holden at midfield. Moved to wing forward. You could see the reason for it, bringing in Ronan Murphy. Like Liam said, it didn't work.
Dan existed for Darren.
It didn't happen, and Dan was out of position. Really, he was really out of the game, in fairness. But Darragh Lyon and Ronan Buckley have had a great year, both of them. Complement each other well. They're good in the air. They link between defence and attack, and certainly that was one of the key factors yesterday. Mid Kerry would need to have won that midfield battle to get good ball into their forwards. They didn't get it, and one of the things that caught the eye yesterday was the quality ball. We know David Clifford got 1-9, but the quality ball going in, when you see James O'Donoghue, Paddy Clifford looking up like a shot out of a gun, giving the forward every advantage. He still had to win it and do the business, but, there was quality diagonal ball going in. I think he said after, on one of the interviews yesterday evening, that they're a kicking team, but they kicked at the right time. They weren't forcing the ball in, and Jonathan Lyon, likewise, Paul Murphy gave great ball to all the forwards. So they were giving the forward the advantage all the time, and that was the difference. They showed their experience. I think David said in one of the interviews they were hurting from last year, and certainly they were on a mission yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. David Clifford said in that interview he liked playing with teams that kick the ball. Obviously direct and the whole lot. Couple of comments on Twitter that we dug out of it. Darren Sutton, of course, former Kerry captain player. No joy for Mid Kerry, of course. He was with Mid Kerry at the last county final. But watching David Clifford was worth the admission fee alone. The man is a gift and keeps on giving something special. Kyle Cooney from Tyrone. David Clifford is a joy to watch in the modern game. What separates him is his movement. He's extremely smart in his movements. Everything is to his advantage. Also helps you have the best kick passers in the country delivering the ball to you. David Clifford giving a masterclass in the Kerry County final. What a joy to watch. Pure talent, skill, so inspiring for any youngster to watch a genius at play. Pat Healy, of course, out the road there in Listowel, the brilliant photographer from the racing world. He describes him as George Best of football. And then another comment on, do people honestly think David Clifford's follow-through happened by accident, or was it natural? His underage coaches have played a blinder along with his own attitude to self-improvement and deliberate practice away from the team. We could fill a whole hour every week about David Clifford. Are we living in a real special time, Liam, where we're seeing some guy that they're going to be talking about forever when we're long gone? And, even yesterday, his hardest job was probably to get away from 30 kids, then maybe a couple of defenders at the end of it. Tell us how special these days are when we go out and see marquee player like that. Normally it was the Gooch. People talked about Morris Fitz before, and maybe even going back to Mick O'Connell or
Mikey Sheehy
and all that.
Yeah.
But we're living in a massive special time.
We are, and we said it yesterday when we were looking down off the press box. He's a superstar. He just, everyone, adults, not only kids, adults, everyone is following him. But look, I was lucky enough years ago. I was involved with development squads when David came into development squads. I seen him grow. I had him above in the college and stuff like that. No, I'm not saying I had anything to do with the way he's playing.
Obviously, nothing at all to do with it.
Nothing at all to do with it. But like this boy, and I had said it here years ago, that he's probably going to be the best we have ever seen if he can stay away from injury. And I'll still stand by that comment. And I said it 4 or 5 years ago, if not longer. Because he's something special, and not only that, he's a gent. He's a guy that would have great time for the smallest of young fellas to the oldest of fellas, and boys or girls, it doesn't matter. And he takes everything in his stride, and I hope it stays like that, and I think it will, because look, with the family around him. But we can't forget, and I think yesterday I didn't as well, like that it's nice to have a brother there. And I think Paddy, if you look back in the last couple of years, Paddy has been a big advantage to David in there. Even the ball that David is getting, they're just, it's telepathic really between the two of them. But yeah, we are living in a special time. This guy is going to be, like I said, probably the greatest I have ever seen. My father and all of them will debate it with the older guys, but I do think that he's going to be one of the, barring injury, that's the biggest fear in the sport.
John Kennedy,
it's one thing to be a good player though, Gary, or Donald, sorry for interrupting, but he's exceptional. But it's off the field, and the way we were watching him yesterday before the interview, he was speaking to the young fellas the same as they were teammates. They were eagles, they were buzzing to go, their eyes were wide open, and there he was, a legend of the game, having time for the young fellas. I think that's very, very important. It's fantastic for the GA, but it's like Liam said, they're a fantastic duo, Paddy and himself, and they're a credit to the family and to Fossa. And Meath Kerry won't say that tonight, but it's great to see your marquee players performing, and they have done it this year, the Kerry players, in most games at different times, and but the Cliffords are two of the best.
Lads, congratulations to East Kerry. They were the better team all year. I did think Dingle could have beaten them, but they left it behind. I thought Meath Kerry never came with a plan to win the game other than to hold the ball, but in truth they were no match for East Kerry. That's John in Rochester. He tunes in every week. Great show as always. Love listening to the views of Kerry people after their county final. Take David Clifford out of it, and many clubs would have a great chance of winning it. That's Sean there in Sligo, and he's listening on the Radio Kerry app. And lads, what would David Clifford be worth in a transfer window like soccer?
Frightening. I don't think we could afford him anyway.
He wouldn't be off the road.
But that's the other thing. I hope the GA, the headquarters knowing about, they have a guy here that's so remarkable at the moment. That they should be looking after him, and I hope he gets as much as he can out of the GA. I know they're on about this amateur sport, but at the end of the day, David Clifford he's a young child now. He needs to be looked after off the field and on the field.
There you go. Well, look, we'll be looking after a lot of them on the field and off the field after the break, because we're going to start talking about the team of the championship. We're talking all things Garvey Super Value County Football Championship final yesterday, and here I am with John Kennedy and Liam Brosnan once more. Comments are coming in, they're flying in. Get your comment in 066 712 3666. Text us on 083 300 300, and this one came in on text. David Clifford mania is the real thing. We went to the final yesterday, and also my kids wanted an autograph afterwards, so it was amazing. They didn't even go to watch the match, it was just get David. Poor final, no atmosphere apart from one strong tackle by Nathan Breen early on and David Clifford. It really was a tame affair. Lads, €20. Oh, here we go. Lads, €20 for one of the worst finals in recent times. It was not a patch on what the hurlers delivered each year. I was at both this year, and I can say football supporters are the most boring supporters of them all. No colour, no noise. There was barely a clap as the teams went around the parade. All around disappointing. Thank God for David Clifford. Well, there you go. Let's break that one down for a second. €20 to go in the gate. It is your Premier final. Is it a big number?
Not really done. No, I think, look,
for one game?
I'd give €20 just to watch David Clifford alone, like, you know. But look, it's your Premier final, it's our county final. No, the county board can't tell you going in the gate how good the game or how bad the game's going to be. You know, so yeah, look, I'd have no. If you go to a soccer match in England or go to, you play a lot more than €20. So look, it's our competition, it's our big competition. We have our stars playing it, so I'd have no bones at €20.
Fair play.
And I paid €20 down just before I went texts in.
Tom Kane didn't help you out there, did he? I hope he receipted it. No, the other thing there, of course, is the hurling one. I was at the hurling one. I suppose he's being kind of a bit bold with the text, but I get the sense of it in the sense that I was at the hurling one. There is great excitement. There's loads of kids. There's loads of colours. There's drums. There's, you know, it's just more noise. Does that just happen though, John, because it's more parochial, it's smaller? And I'm not making the club smaller now by saying that, but I mean, like, there's more of a rivalry between the likes of Kilmiley and Causeway and Ardfert and Ballyduff, whereas when you are a district team, getting together is hard enough, but the supporters, while they'll all gel together and support on the day, they're not like club supporters.
Oh no, that colour isn't there, Donald, and like you, I've been at a lot of the hurling finals, and you know, the colour and the excitement and you know, the jerseys and all that, it's part and parcel of it. And regardless what the standard is, they'll follow and they'll come out, and there's, you know, Causeway, Ballyduff, St. Brendan's, Kilmiley, you know, there's huge passion there, Crotta, you know, they all bring their own to it. But like, I'd have to agree with the listener, it was a mild, timid final yesterday. You know, it lacked atmosphere, even from the very start. You know, a few hard hits got the crowd going. Other than that but was it the fact that Meath Kerry were in the ascendancy, that they were so much ahead? Maybe not on the scoreboard, but they dictated what was happening. You know, I think it added to it as well. But like, definitely with the divisional sides, you have it dilutes the colour, dilutes that rivalry that you get from club. You know, the club final in Killarney 2 weeks ago or last week, it's different because it's one against one, and when you have a divisional team, it certainly dilutes that. But look, it's not the county board's fault. It's not, you know, everything was laid on. Pitch was in brilliant condition.
There was probably a lot of neutrals at that game as well yesterday.
Yeah.
It's a big neutral crowd there yesterday.
Yeah. And like David, look, we've said it and we'll continue to say it. The amount of people that travel from all over the country to see David Clifford playing, and you know, they're neutrals. They're not going to be wearing the colours, but they come to see this guy playing. Look, and isn't it great to see him coming through the turnstiles?
Yeah, and ultimately that's what we come to see. We come to see what's happening on the field, I suppose, not around it. It helps, obviously. Lads, the East Kerry team are in Rathmore celebrating now at the home of their captain, Paul Murphy. Surely the next Kerry captain will be a Rathmore man. Oh, disgust, dear God. I could ask Liam there, but I'd be putting an awful lot of pressure on you, Liam. What do you think, John? Would you like a Rathmore man captain next year?
I suppose, does it depend on the Donoghue Cup? Is that the way they do it? I'm not sure, Donald. Is it whoever wins it has the...
We'll ask the county board man there. Look, sure, he knows all the answers.
I'm not 100% sure, but
you're like the rest of the listeners, John. You're just an outsider.
But there's a lot of guys there now that can be a Kerry captain, and I'm sure Jack, and I know the East Kerry board will have a say in it, but I'm sure Jack will probably have...
Your choice is the two Cliffords to the two Rathmore people.
Two Rathmore fellas, yeah.
There'll be any other one hanging there?
Well, you would have a couple of guys there probably, you know, hanging with the likes of the Par Warrens and the Chris Donoghues and these guys, but I don't think so. I would be looking at probably Paul Murphy and the two Cliffords, really, and Shane Ryan thrown in there as well. Like, yeah.
And in fairness, any of those four, you know, they're all leaders.
They're all natural.
You know, they're big names in the dressing room now as well. They've experienced the whole lot, So I'll throw that back to my father now, though, and I'll see what he says.
And ask him before he retires from his job, who is he going to give captaincy to? Donald, congrats on a great few weeks' coverage of the championship. I have to say that the informed debate with John and Liam, and you are certainly all the writing's bad here, and you are certainly get a lot out of them. Oh yes, absolutely. But I would love to see a female on the panel next season. There we go. Well, you know, absolutely. We'll have to go find one, will we, lads? We'll get know a lot of them out there. Now, not a great final, lads, and you're doing a great job trying to analyse it. Fair play to you. Let's do something that we are quite good at, and that's the team of the championship. We'll have a little look at what they were. We went over the players. John, I suppose this year it's a little bit difficult and a little bit easier, I suppose, at the same regard. A lot more games, so we saw a lot more players, and we discussed them week after week, particularly from round 1, round 2, round 3. But it really only gets serious from quarter-final onwards.
Absolutely, Donald, and you know, we had the advantage this year in that I think we saw every team playing at least once, you know, and But it's like any competition, like picking any team. You know, you have kind of shadow boxing early on, particularly in the group stages. You know, maybe most of the games bar one were dead rubbers in the qualifying, but it heats up quarter-final, semi-final, and I suppose probably one of the games of the championship was Dingle and East Kerry in the semi-final. You know, that certainly lit up and it went right to the end, and Dingle considers it as lucky.
Was it a good championship, John? I mean, we had 31 games. I mean, you nearly referred to the amount of dead rubbers. That was nearly 4 in one weekend alone. Even though I'd say the East Kerry Dingle one, even though it was down for dead rubbers, it was fairly fiery, I thought. But was it a good championship overall?
Overall, I thought it was disappointing enough, to be honest with you. You know, quality. There was exceptions. There was exceptional displays by teams. There was exceptional displays by individuals. You know, Dingle, you know, really came to the fore. You know, went right to the line. You know, if it weren't for Paul Murphy's massive kick and Paul O'Shea, they could have been in the final. Field Rangers coming out from North Kerry and getting to county semi-final, great boost. The displays of Kinmare and Timplenoe earlier on, you know, and then the other side of it, Austin Stacks, county champions, you know, gone and eventually went down to intermediate. It shows the competitiveness of it. It was really competitive. Maybe quality-wise, not great, but there was a lot of tough, dour struggles, not much between the teams, and it didn't lend to exciting games then. And I think that was part of it. And yesterday, it continued on that trend yesterday. You know, some great individual displays, some great point kicking, but as a spectacle, not a great game.
Mm-hmm. Talk about some of the teams, Liam. I mean, they'll be doing their homework now, I suppose, assessing their campaigns. Nagale, for example, I mean, first year in, they'll be reasonably happy. They got their win as well.
Exactly, and Spa, you could put Spa into that bracket as well. You know, but realistically, are you just happy competing, or can you be happy to push on and say you can win this competition? And I do think, look, they are building. Timplenoe, typical example this year. No, they were very unlucky. They could have been in a semi-final of a senior county championship. You know, it was only a kick of a ball really. So they have kind of laid the marker for the likes of the Spas and the Nagale. But yeah, they'd be very happy with their performances. I suppose the whole talking point, I suppose, is Stacks gone out of the county championship. You know, that's probably for another show. But yeah, it's this.
But did they disappoint in the club championship? I mean, people will look to and say they competed reasonably well. They got to the quarter final. They lost to Field Rangers, who ultimately, you know, got annihilated probably by Mid Kerry as well. So I mean, their bar had dropped a little bit, but their damage was ultimately done in the club championship.
It was done in the club championship, yeah. And it just shows, like, and you know, you'll be watching Twitter there and people commentating or making comments about the way football is ran in Kerry. But it's so competitive. You know, that you can win the senior county championship one year and you can be relegated the next year. No, and I think the club championship, you know, with the 8 teams in it, when there was 11 teams, I always found it kind of, you know, the bottom 3 teams were the likes of Curra and Filemore and these guys, and the big teams were always going to beat us anyway, so they were always staying there.
It was just a case of staying ahead of one.
It was just staying ahead of one, yeah. Whereas now, like last year, it could have been Crokes. Mm-hmm. No, this year it Stacks. Who will it be next year? No, so it just makes it way more competitive, and I think that's good in all avenues, because it improves the players as well. You know, we're looking at guys for Kerry football. No, we don't want guys, you know, waltzing through club championships down here. We want a bit of bite about it. Like on the county championship there, probably a lot of the games were poor. There was no good bite about it. No, we can pick out players. No, we went out and, you know, the likes of the Keith Evanses, now the Kieran Dennehy's and these guys, Keane McMahon, half a Corriman, don't forget that again. But Keane McMahon from Dr. Crokes, it's lovely to see young guys, you know, that are kind of making a mark for themselves.
Robert Monaghan,
yeah. And then you have the next guys then that are making the next step, which would be the Chris O'Donoghue's and the Dan O'Brien's and the Pa Warrens. They're the next step ahead of them, and then you have our big boys then ahead of it. So you nearly have the 3 steps, and it's great to see that, you know, that it's not just one game, they're beaten, they're out, and we don't see them no more. I think that's where the championship was nice this year. I suppose the best game of the lot, like John said, was the Dingle game. You know, the Dingle, and we all said that was probably the final. We were hoping it wasn't, but it proved that it was. And look, overall, I suppose East Kerry probably deserving winners. Championship as a spectacle probably wasn't, football wise wasn't I wouldn't get overly carried away with a lot of the games anyway.
John, some of the districts people will say East Kerry, you know, it's incredibly wrong. They have 10 teams and they have 600,000 players and they're all playing for Kerry and it's totally unfair. But people forget the other districts, West Kerry, South Kerry, Shannon Rangers, they're districts as well. I mean, they're not drinking from the same cup of wine at the moment. I mean, it's kind of cyclical in a sense that South Kerry had their time and they moved away. Mid-Kerry are there at the moment as well. It's very hard being a district, isn't it? I mean, obviously people are going to say, oh, that's an awful statement because East Kerry are flying, but there's 7 other districts there as well. It's a tough old gig.
It's tough, and you know, like Liam said there, the competitive nature of the football in the county. You know, when you come to the club championships, you're preparing for that because, you know, every team in intermediate and junior have a vision of going to Croke Park. That's the big one. I think it was a fantastic move by Sean Kelly that you went to Croke Park with your club. Huge. And, you know, before there's a ball kicked or a draw made, there are teams with a vision of winning Kerry, going on to Munster and going further. That's one side of it. Then, when that's over, you have to come in straight away then with your divisional team. It's very difficult, and it's hard to get the preparation in. You know, how do you do it? But East Kerry do it. So I think that's the model that we have to go on. South Kerry have done it for years. You know, Field Rangers proved this year it can be done. West Kerry, they all had their time at it. And I think it's about managing it. It's about organising it. And it's about getting the best out of it. Because every division, you know, there's 6 and 7 teams within some of the divisions. 3 players from each club, that's 50, that's 18 players, you have your team. It's about getting organised properly and getting up to the level. And I think it's for the football in Kerry and for the championship to benefit, I think every team will have to prepare at that level and produce it. Mid-Kerry have done it, and the disappointing thing is they didn't perform yesterday, but they will be back, there's no question. They have good players, they'll have learned from that, and I think it's important. But you know,
it's driven by your clubs. It has to be driven by your clubs.
Next week, you have the boys back with Foss again. You have Artfert. You have all the clubs going in. Cordal. It's non-stop. Mm-hmm. Very, very difficult. The split season is great from inter-county level, but there's no break for the players that are successful with their clubs. It's going on, and he'll continue to go on.
You look at David Clifford. He has no break. He played Sigerson in January, and he's still going.
Yeah, it's funny you said it because Peter Kane, the former Kerry manager, when he was asked about the split season, he said it'll do nothing for the inter-county player. They're going to be flat all the way through. I'm nearly sure flat is the word to use as well, because it's like you said, they're going to play college, they're going to play all the Munster kind of leagues, and whatever they go through the league itself, then they're back in, they play the All-Ireland as far as they go back into their club, their district, their county, back into their club. Fuss are going well, so the boys have another week or 2 weeks out, and then if they win they go to Munster, and then they're travelling around Munster and heading to Clare and back over to Limerick and wherever that trip takes them. It's a long journey for amateur players, isn't it?
It is, and I suppose it did really highlight it this year with the club teams in the county championship. Injuries. You know, because like you just said, Donald, they went from inter-county to club, and it was club every week. It wasn't every second week, or don't know, every third week like you'd have before. It was every week. So it's getting very hard now for the footballer.
Are we going to see something eventually in the GA like the rugby, where the Kerry players are the Munster players?
We've said it years ago, yeah.
And the club players are just going to be the club players.
Or just club players are going to be the club players. You're going to have maybe 30 players taking back the Corns, and that's your squad for the And at the way the count, we'll see this year now with the new format of the thing, you could see that's the way the inter-county is kind of going a small bit. There's a few grumblings then that, you know, that the inter-county is finished too early, and you know, we're letting other sports come in and stuff like that. You know, so in the next 10 years we could see a lot of changes, all right, because we realistically we're kind of moving away from the amateur at that level, the amateur situation, because players won't do it. You know, it's just the bodies won't do it anyway. Like the professionals aren't playing as much as they are on the inter-county footballer at the moment, because and their bodies. That's why I said at the start there about David Clifford. Once he stays away from injuries, we're asking so much of our inter-county footballers now at the moment. It's just phenomenal. And then if you're the opposition manager, you're telling your fellow marking him, get stuck into him. You know, so it's
and they're leading by example. I was watching the hurling last night in the Piercing. You know, the cases and Will O'Donoghue and those guys, they have come off an All-Ireland victory, continued on. It's the same. It's very difficult to keep that going because, you know, the standard might be dropped, obviously, but they're expected to lead by example, so there's nowhere to hide. And I think from now on, you're coming into bad weather, pitches not as good as they were. This is the time unfortunately the injuries happen.
Yeah.
And you know, as Liam said, some of our top players, any injury, we can't afford it really. So it's something that I think will have to be looked at, because it's a January to November job now, and that's the body will only take.
And there's no break, like.
There's no break.
Yeah.
The body can only take so much.
Well, we're going to take a break, because after the break, as John Kennedy says, there's no place to hide, because we're going to put you to the pin of your collar and pick our team of the championship. Now, plenty comments, of course, 06671236666, and it's 083300300, and this comment came in. The county championship was very poor in Kerry this year. Not many players to pick out for the county team. When you ask the lads about Dingle's midfield, should they get a run, and our Field Rangers and Shannon Rangers going to join together next year? Yeah, well, I'll give that to John Kennedy, yes or no, there in a second. Hi, Donald, congrats to East Kerry. Hard to see anyone beat them next year either. Very sad hearing about Padraig Hartnett passed away. He was a top man at his job, so passionate too. My condolences to all. That's Charles there as well. Thank you very much, Charles tonight. Great listener. Who should Jack call into the Kerry panel now that we've seen everyone in the County Championship? That's from Paul. We'll ask that as well, Paul. Is it time to divide East Kerry? Who's going to beat the team with 9 Kerry present and past players? Don't forget, Tom Sullivan kept David to 1 point. David not marked at all yesterday. There's plenty there. Poor championship, we kind of agreed on that one. North Kerry joined together, yes or no, John?
I was at a meeting with Shannon Rangers. Joe Langan and Alan Kennelly had it a few weeks ago, and I think Field Rangers have decided to stay on their own for another year. Yeah,
but of course they're ploughing away. Dingle's midfield, should they get a run, Liam? Yes or no? Is that a maybe?
No, they had a great championship. It was a great championship, yeah. But as for inter-county, it's a big step up again.
Yeah, save your powder there. Who should Jack call into the panel? We'll pick a team for you now, Paul, and we'll see will anyone of them get into the panel. And divide East Kerry. Is it time to divide East Kerry? It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And look, you have Legion and you have Rapmore in the intermediate, so they could be gone out of it next year. Anyway, I love this debate, because I don't think that it's dividing East Kerry is going to make anything better or anything worse. I think it's up to the other teams to pull up their socks and up to the clubs to push on. Like, you still look at the East Kerry team. You have Legion, Glenflesk, Fireys, Gilligwilla, the players from Gilligwilla. They're all clubs, Fossa, that are really putting their shoulders to the wheel, and they're producing these good footballers. So can everybody else come up to East Kerry standard? And like that, look, it was South Kerry a couple of years ago. It was Dr. Crokes. There'll be another East Kerry in another couple of years.
It's not so long ago since people were looking for Dublin to be divided.
That's right, yeah.
So it goes in cycles.
Yeah. So there's going to be no East Kerry and no West East Kerry.
No.
Or no East Central East Kerry.
Central East Kerry.
Let's go on with it. No, I don't think there's either. Okay, let's have some control over what we are. And of course, the team of the championship, we'll have about 12 minutes to fly through this now, lads, before 7 o'clock. Let's rock and roll with the goalkeepers that just took your eye at the start before we get down to where we're going. What we might do, actually, just mention all the players that were in and around the mix, and then we'll get the big finale later on. So, Liam, you took a look at the goalies for us. A lot of good goalies in this year's championship.
A lot of good goalkeepers in this championship, yeah. You had young Sean Coffey, Cathal Keane. I suppose the 4 guys that we really looked at was Gavin Curran, who I was impressed with Dingle as well, and of course Shane Ryan, our all-star. Like, the 4 of them would grace any team.
Shane Ryan was only third choice keeper for East Kerry for a while, wasn't he?
He was for a while, yeah. He was actually more of a full forward than a goalkeeper for a game or two. But I think these guys, them four goalkeepers, really held their hand up. And no, I think was it Cathal Keane that conceded no goal? Was it?
Oh, right,
no goal in the championship. No, so that's a record on its own.
Or else he's got a great defence.
Or else he's a very good defence, yeah.
Speaking about defence, John, talk about some of the defenders. I mean, surely there's about 15 or 20 defenders there all across the different teams that kind of stood out. And we'll just name kind of defenders, full-backs, wing-backs, the whole lot. We'll fly through some of them.
We looked at that, Donald, because a lot of them have been, they're versatile. They play in different positions, but I suppose Parrin, Donach Maher from Field Rangers, Jack Sherwood, Jason Foley, Tig Morley, then Aaron O'Connor from Field Rangers, Shane O'Connor from South Kerry, Brian Crowley, Patrick Clifford, Eddie McCarthy, Niall Collins, Michael Potts, Eddie Brown, played full back for Field Rangers. All those guys were in the mix, and a lot of great defending. I suppose it was the highlight of the championship maybe. Not so much swarm defences, but guys back, a lot of close man-to-man marking, and some great interceptions and some great battles throughout the championship.
The fitness of defenders seems to be much better these days. I mean, the days of pulling and dragging, there's a lot of clean marking now and kind of proper shadowing, as opposed to fellas kind of hauling fellas down. Like you said, no mass defence. So it was a good enough season for defenders.
It was a good season for defenders. They played shoulder to shoulder. You know, they were out in front. They weren't afraid to go with the ball and take it on, rather than be playing negative stuff.
And most of them kick points.
And most,
exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of good wing backs out there. Midfielders, obviously keep the poor man from Dingle happy. I suppose you have both of them there, have you?
You have both, yeah. You have Barry, and of course you have the two boys yesterday, East Kerry, Dara and Ron Buckley. But Colin McGillicuddy, Darren Houlihan, Robert Monaghan is the guy that tucked the eye as well. Mark O'Shea, young fella from Dr. Crokes. No, he went in full forward in their quarter final as well, and did very well. Graham O'Sullivan. Graham played, so I saw him outside against Field Rangers. Was very solid around the middle of the field. You could see a real leader. And Mike O'Donnell from Stacks probably was the one guy that really stood out this year for Stacks in the year that they had. A guy that drove forward with pace and power and kicked his few points. So yeah, there's plenty of midfield options there. But it's funny that we haven't mentioned any of our inter-county midfielders in that bunch of midfielders.
Mm-hmm. Who were they?
Well, you have David Moran, and you have Dermot and Jack Barry and these guys. Yeah. So it's just, but they didn't come to the top of the list.
Yeah, I suppose going back and playing with Nigel, if they were with Brendan's, they might have been pushed further.
The farther you go on in these competitions and stuff like that,
you go. Doesn't mean that they didn't play any harder. So there's no forwards. There's only one forward in the whole of Kerry, David Clifford. Sure, he'll take up all 6 positions, will he? Who else, Sean, in the forwards?
Well, I suppose outside of David and Paddy and Paul Gain, you have the likes of Rory Murphy, Robert Stack, a young, exciting talent from Shannon Rangers. Ian O'Connor had a great campaign. Mikey Gainey, Liam Carey, Kieran Denny, as Liam has said earlier on. Another guy.
Corman, don't forget that.
Another guy with a lot of talent. Dylan Gainey, Dara Roach, Shawnee Shea, Shane O'Callaghan, Keane McMahon and James O'Donoghue, who rolled the years back yesterday with some quality passing. He didn't score, but some great balling to the forwards.
He was very busy, wasn't he?
Very busy, yeah.
Running around, ball off.
He gave one ball in particular into David Clifford. It was
the point, actually. That's the 20. I've written down here the 24th minute. And David gave the party. Probably the point of the game.
Yeah, absolutely class.
Throwing the points in. Okay, let's get it. We have 8 minutes. Goalkeeper. We'll give that to Liam, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll start off with the goalkeeper. I think this is a guy we spoke here a good few times throughout the campaign, and he's come from a good stock, and things didn't go well for him yesterday, probably on the kick outside of it, but overall had a very fine championship, and that would be young Sean Coffey from Beaufort.
Sean Coffey, mid-Kerry. Fair play to him. Now, cornerbacks. We kind of decided that, rather than having a 2, a 3 and a 4, but that we were going to pick 3 good fellas that would go into the full back line, 3 good fellas that go half back line, proper midfielders, and we kind of went around that we'd pick a team that would play very well and complement each other. John, take us through the full back line.
The full back line we went with, I suppose, number 2 was Chris O'Donoghue from East Kerry. A busy cornerback. He's not a flamboyant kind of player. He does his job very, very well.
Shuts down forwards.
Uses the ball. Never seen him putting the ball astray. He got number 2. Tom O'Sullivan from Dingle. We picked him at full back. He did the best job, man marking job that could have been done on David Clifford, I suppose, this year.
Than anybody else.
In the previous game, he kicked 5 points.
And top scored against David.
Showed his confidence coming from the inter-county and had a great campaign. And in the other corner, Pa Kilkenny, I think he was, even yesterday when Mid-Kerry wasn't going well, Pa was one of the generals around the middle. He was taking the game on. He was dictating what was happening. And, we went to him at number 4.
Yeah, he showed massive fight all the way through as well. He was on his 4th final, of course, wanted to win it obviously dearly, but he rolled up the sleeves yesterday and he went after him. The half-back line, have we picked a half-back line of scoring forwards, or have we picked a half-back line of defenders?
We've picked a half-back line that would be very solid. I wouldn't mind managing the 3 of them anyway. We started off with number 5, and that would be the captain yesterday, Paul Murphy from Rathmore. At number 6 then we went with, probably yesterday didn't shine as much as he did in the semi-final, but was a real leader throughout for me, Kerry. It was Mike Breen. and number 7 would be, for one of our listeners there, would be a guy that Jack will be looking at seriously this year to bring into Corns, and that's Dan O'Brien of Glenflesk and East Kerry as well. The three of them were you couldn't really argue against not having them on the team. There's always these always debates with these teams, that such a fella and this fella, but I'd like to see
you went with this fella.
I'd like to see the debate against not having either one of them on the team.
Mike Breen, of course, Paul Murphy, I suppose you kind of moved him over. You done kind of a Tig Morley on him, like the All-Stars, put him to 5, is it?
Yeah, but he's a guy you could play anywhere. He's like Tom Sullivan, and most of these defenders, it's like the new age defender now, so they're not tied to a position. You can play him anywhere, and that's. He's a fella you'd have to have on your team after the championship.
Winning the ball, John, huge game in midfield. Who were the two fair lauders?
There was a lot of competition around the middle of the field, Donald, and the first guy we went to was Barry O'Sullivan. Thought he had a very consistent year with Dingle, particularly in the game against East Kerry. He was one of the leading lights. He was driving forward. We mentioned a while ago for inter-county scene, can he go to the next level? He's been very successful underage. I think he's matured a lot. I think he's his most consistent year for Dingle up to now. And his partner, the guy we picked with him, was Ronan Buckley. Hugely consistent for East Kerry. Popped up with kicking vital scores, was always available. If they needed to win ball, when they weren't going well in games, he was one of the guys that would go up independent and win his ball when others around him weren't playing so well. So we've gone with Barry O'Sullivan and Ronan Buckley.
Half forwards, Liam?
Half forwards, yeah. We started off with a guy, I suppose it wouldn't be on the lips of many people at the start of the year, but Barry Manhean, number 10 from Field Rangers, had a fantastic year. Seen him in a couple of games. Athletic, another guy that's going to be ticking the box for Jack. Be very surprised if he's not called into and given some type of a programme. Number 11, an easy one to pick, Paddy Clifford. And number 12 is another young, very exciting player coming through, really caught the eye. Worked hard yesterday, but yesterday was a game where for a lot of mid-Kerry players where they struggled, but he never gave up, and that's young Keith Evans.
Absolutely, he was outstanding in the semi-final, of course.
He got man of match in the semi-final.
Yeah, and of course it's the learning curve for the likes of them. He's a good bit younger than the rest of them. I mean, it's first county final, probably that level. Everything happened, and he'll be learning all the way. And I think that's well deserved. Full forward line, John Kennedy, the line that you kind of hung out in sometimes, was it, or did you ever hang out there?
Sometimes, Donald, yeah. But I can tell you, the competition for the full forward line was incredible. Easy enough in the end to pick, I suppose, 13, David Clifford. What can we say about this guy that hasn't been said already? When the need was most, he did it yesterday, 1-9, superb. Full forward, Paul Ganey, thought he had a fantastic championship. He was one of the main reasons why Dingle went to the wire, really, and were very unlucky to lose out in the semi-final. Showed all his experience. And the other corner, we've gone with a man that there was little known about him before the championship, I suppose, outside in North Kerry, but I can tell you he kicked some fantastic scores. Martin Stack from Field Rangers in my van, one of the top scorers in the championship, and we've gone with him at number 15.
Fair play to Liam. I didn't think you knew who he was 8 weeks ago.
Well, he really opened he opened a lot of eyes, to be fair to the men.
But isn't that what kicker. The county championship is about? It's about finding some fella, whether it is for Kerry or not, that just can perform.
Yeah, and we're not picking a Kerry team here tonight. We're picking guys who
stood up in the championship.
Who stood up in the championship, who took the eye, who maybe just a small recollection, that look, these guys get a clap in the back and played well with their district or clubs.
Sean Range will be joining Field Rangers fairly quickly. Two Field Rangers men inside the team, the championship.
Yeah, two Field Rangers men, and they deserve it. And like Liam said, Barry Mahoney's a guy with huge talent. Picked up an injury before St. Sinners played the North Kerry Championship last week. Hope it's not too serious. And Mike Breen again at centre back, just to go back to it, he's another guy we'd be looking forward to. Yeah, that he'll kick on now and hopefully be injury free, because huge talent.
Like we've 4 or 5 guys there now in that team that you'll be hoping that will push into, as I say, corners behind, and see will they push what Jack has there already to the pin of their collar and hold their hands up.
Chris Dunn, Glenflesk.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Dan O'Brien, Glenflesk.
Yeah, two Glenflesk defender, and probably 2 of them will be inside with Jack. I'd be very surprised if they're not. And so like I said, there's 4 or 5 guys there, young guys. We've picked teams here down through the years where we have a lot of Kerry players on them. this year. I suppose we've a lot, and I suppose that comes from watching a lot of games as well, that there's a lot of young talent coming through.
I suppose the county championship really is to look at the talent that's just below the line.
Yeah.
That's not on the panel or the Kerry panel at that present time, and see can they measure up. And there's quite a number of them. There's at least 4 or 5 that could.
Yeah.
They should be given a programme probably, and will be. And how can they measure up? Then is the question.
And the way into county football has gone now, John, that it's kind of, you have to be in there a year before you can break into a squad, or you want to be very lucky to get a jersey straight away. So all these guys will be brought in.
Good God, fair play. No
well, according to myself and John.
Sure. Hopefully Clifford gets back into the Kerry team in here. No, it's a good team. We'll go through it after the break, because we're also going to talk about the team. Also, we have the team of the championship. No, we get the player of the championship, which is good. Surely Thomas Sutton deserved an all-star at 6, and surely Tyg Murley should have been given the number 6 jersey and not the number 5 jersey. And that's a comment there from a Killarney listener. And we'll talk about the All-Stars as well after the break. Great to see Jason Foley as an All-Star, great ambassador for his club, Ballydunhoe. Always a great club man and one of the real nice guys. I can absolutely echo that. Jason is certainly right. 4 All-Stars and Player of the Year award for David Clifford. Will he ever catch Spillane? And I'm sure at the pace he's going, he's probably going to catch Spillane fairly quickly. Guys, let's rock on with the Player of the Championship before we go to something special and then come back to talk about All-Stars. We were down to 4 based on performances all the way through. We have the Cliffords brothers, Paddy and David. We have Pat Kilkenny, and we have Paul Ganey. Very quickly, Liam, Paul Ganey had a great year.
Paul Ganey, fantastic year. Green and gold, and for Dingle, rolling back, as they say, rolling back the years. A real threat up front every time, and you could see Dingle were really kind of targeting him as well with ball. And he's a guy that we were saying maybe 2 years ago has he much more to offer the green and gold jersey, but by God, the way he's playing, we need him.
Mm-hmm. Pat Kilkenny, he drove, I suppose, mid-Kerry, John, all the way to where they got to the final. He rolled up the sleeves, as we said earlier, and done the best that he could, I suppose, in difficult conditions. Certainly still a player that has it.
Oh, there's no doubt. He's a real man marker. He's great on the ball, great vision. He was always a great defender, and I suppose maybe if it were not for injury, he was in the Kerry squad, great underage player, and certainly showed his experience yesterday. It's easy to play well when your team is going well. I think the sign of a great player is when your team are struggling. And yesterday at times, when they were under pressure, Pa was really leading by the example, coming out to the defence, linking up, and he had a great campaign.
Mm-hmm. Another man who had a great campaign, Paddy Clifford, played all the games. He really is the kind of the American quarterback as such.
He's the engine room, he's the engine room. And when East Kerry were in trouble throughout the championship at different times, he was the guy that pulled them out of the gutter, really. Won the dirty ball, kicked the hard point. Even yesterday, when they needed that goal, who was the man to pass it to his big brother inside was Paddy. So he's the guy that he was getting Kerry ticking, and he's keeping East Kerry ticking. So just a fantastic player all round. You'd love to have Paddy Clifford on your team.
Mm-hmm. Big brother, of course, David. He saved the best for last. I mean, he didn't start the first game when they scored 220. He came on against Spock. He kicked his couple of points. But really shone on the biggest day of them all.
Oh, class. Some of his point kicking yesterday was just top drawer stuff. He makes it look so easy. I think it's always, we said a few years ago about Seamus Mine and, all the good players, Mark O'Shea and those guys, they always have time on the ball. David Clifford is the same. He rarely seems to be under pressure. He's always kicking almost as if the defender is playing off him. But, he's been tied and he's been pulled and dragged, and all of a sudden he just gets that yard and bang, over the bar. Class player, and we're lucky to have him.
Mm-hmm. So Liam opened the envelope. Who's the rosary?
The magic envelope, yeah. Look, we've gone for a guy that we have huge admiration for. We know, I suppose, as people sitting on the table here who've been involved in football and coached and managed, what this guy brings to a team. It's just like I said 30 seconds ago. Look, our player of the year is Paddy Clifford. I don't think his brother will mind one bit, because I think his brother knows what he does for him, and what he did for East Kerry, and what he's done for Kerry throughout the year.
In many ways, he makes David Clifford a player that he is. He makes him. He gives him that extra 10%. I suppose there's that brotherly thing where they kind of know they played all the way along the way. But he certainly improves David, not that he needs any improving, to be even a better player than he is.
Yeah, there's a great telepathic between the two of them, like brothers, obviously. But like some of your listeners and even some of the tweets there, like it helps when you have some of the best kickers in the game kicking in the ball too, and he is one of the best kickers in the game. You know, but it's not only he's kicking; it's he shows up with the hard score when you need it. You know, he shows up with the hard ball when you need it throughout the championship. You know, and that's what we're talking about. Is the championship from game one? He was the real leader in the field for East Kerry, and right up to yesterday. No, when they needed, like I said, when they needed to push on and when they needed that goal just to put Meath Kerry out of sight, he was the man at the end of the play to give it to David. And so for us, Paddy Clifford is well deserving the player of the Senior County Championship, Garvey Senior County Championship.
Absolutely, and Tommy Walsh was last year's one. So
it's a nice, yeah.
So we're going from 6'6" to 5'4".
But I think another thing about Paddy, when he hasn't got the ball, his work rate is incredible.
Yeah.
He's fine to be good on it, and which he is. But like his work rate and his tenacious tackling and hitting hard and winning dirty ball, he's fantastic at it. You know, he's a real all-round player, and he's progressed enormously since he's gone in with Kerry, and he's becoming the real deal.
There you have it, the real deal. Paddy Clifford. So Paddy Clifford, the team quickly is Sean Coffey, Chris O'Donoghue, East Kerry, Tom Sullivan, Dingle, Pat Kilkenny, Mid Kerry, Paul Murphy, East Kerry, Mike Breen, Mid Kerry, Dan O'Brien, East Kerry, Barry O'Sullivan, Dingle, Ronan Buckley, East Kerry, Barry O'Mahony, Field Rangers, Paddy Clifford, who's also the player of the championship at centre forward for East Kerry, Keith Evans, Mid Kerry and Keele, of course, David Clifford in the corner, 13. 14 is Paul Gainey, and 15 is Martin Stack out there in Field Rangers. And I suppose they'll be lighting the bonfires in my van, will they, John? They've been living with him, but well deserving. I think it's a very good team. And, you know, this year, as I said, there was 31 games, a lot of matches that you saw all the way through. But again, you know, when it gets to the latter end, I suppose it steps up a bit, which is where we're going to. It's a nice way to wrap the year, though, isn't it? I mean, we started off the start of the year, we were looking to win the All-Ireland. Jack had arrived on the scene, we didn't know where we were going. We're ending the year with an All-Ireland win. We've had, we admitted we had a poor county championship, but we have a very good county championship team picked out of it, and we've got a brilliant county championship player picked out of it. So, all in all, lads, I think you've done fairly well for yourselves.
Not too bad, Donald. Look, the main thing is we got Sam back. I suppose that's the aim at the start of every year. He's given a feel-good factor around the county, and you could see it in the county championship. I think the county players carried that far and through, and it augurs well for the future. 7 All-Stars.
Which is a nice bonus. You know, look, there's always on about individual player awards, but when you win, Sam, you deserve to have 7, maybe 8. Don't a little bit could be a bit of no. But look, we'll take 7 for now. But look, at the end of the day, we're delighted. Sam, the National League, and Sam are at home, and look, we just go and start all over again in January.
Will you be back in January? I don't know, but we'll have to put you to the test. Ivan is going to interview a whole rake of fellas around the corner now at the moment to take your positions. You might be like the boys on Sky, like you might be like a good boy.
We're going to the World Cup, myself and John.
You never know, we could have Ambrose in here next year or Billy or whatever. Listen, guys, thanks very much, and I really mean it, because I mean it takes a bit of time to come in here every evening. And I suppose put your thoughts out in the air. Everybody has thoughts. I mean, most of them keep them inside the car with them, or certainly around the dressing room. But, you know, you do it. There's a great fun to it. I totally enjoyed these evenings, and we will have a lot more of them for sure. We'll probably have to start again in January, I suppose, with the McGrath Cup or whatever it is. But in the meantime, thanks very much.